I do have this little niggle in my head. Russia, could you please colonize that one province so we can see your name spread out in all of its glory? I'm being asked what stat I give for Grugi. You know, if you click on Burgundy the moment the Burgundy inheritance fires and you see that -1, -1, -1 regency for just a second, well, I'll say no more. Good luck, Grugi. Grugi gets a 6 in cockiness. For the idle loop, Grugi is our pet Dane and the player of Russia in this campaign. They started out playing as Lithuania, and, well, I don't see Lithuania on the map, do you? No, they got thoroughly crushed, just like Jonas did in Poland. The two of them chased out by the gluttonous mass of Hungary. So Jonas was flung down to Bachmanes and really made good things out of this land. Did I just see some territorial exchange going on there, though? The Mughals' permanent claims being taken away here. Seems we have a bit of an exchange going on between Bachmanes and the Mughals. Seems they're wanting to share their victory cards between each other. Now this is going to make it extremely likely that any future victory cards they get will be on each other again. But the fact that they've decided to do it peacefully, well, what could that mean for the rest of the world? Because this is going to allow Bachmanes to strike all the way up to first place, because their accumulated score is far superior to everyone else's. Italy and France may have to march down there and put them in their place, because if they strip that land back out of Bachmanes, then the score from victory cards would dribble back down. And again, Starnan is not without their ambition. They're currently in 4th place, and they'll be looking for 3rd or better. They can get that if they secure Picardy. Now, they could diplomatically strike a deal for these provinces with Burgundy. It would have to be a really good deal, since it's incredibly expensive land. Heavily fortified as well, but they wouldn't be getting Vermandois without a fight. France is very comfortable sitting on that 2nd place position, if I'm not mistaken. There we go. 2nd with almost 10,000 points on their side. So they wouldn't want to be in a position where they just let Great Britain power up. JC Dragon is asking about release dates. I have no new release dates to share with you today, I'm afraid. But we are working hard here. Zenjars is asking about global income, and with economy comes power. I quite agree, so it's well worth checking it out. Nobody can beat the Bachmanes for raw income, and, well, that's pretty fair, because when you control this much of India, you control, well, the trade that comes in through Malacca, through Bengal, right into Goa and Ceylon. It is a lot of money. As it's shown there, over 1/3 of that income is made through trade. And of course the production, getting all those spices that need to be given to the greedy Europeans. So yes, Bahman is coming out well on top. Mamluks doing even better in trade. But altogether the taxation and production considerably lower for them. Ming's still making loads of money since they have westernized, so they've gotten rid of their factions over there. They'll be having less trouble. The Celestial Empire will be dead. Then we have the Mughals, Italy and France. Italy not making quite as much money as their power would suggest, but they always seem to have money when it is needed. Of course, people that are good friends with Bahmanes, or indeed Mamluks, could no doubt request a bit of subsidies to help the wars along. Sixty-Father, if I'm reading the name right over in chat, is pointing out a good diplomatic situation here. Doesn't Great Britain owe Burgundy some favours for getting that European land? Well, judging by the British troops down here, and the fact that they sit next to each other in the office, I highly doubt that Britain is going to be stabbing Burgundy in the back anytime soon, especially since they'd have trouble securing France's support on that. Since again, France isn't going to want to make any deals that will make Britain any stronger. And the Britain has a yellow pages full of allies. They're playing very cautiously here. Seems they want everybody on their side to take out the Fritalian alliance. It'd be a difficult one though. Imagine if all these powers came down on France, Italy, Ottomans and Bohemia. Who would come out on top? Denmark have very little to offer the plate. Burgundy have still a lot of wealth on their side. Those lowlands are worth a lot of money. The Iberians had bled a lot for other people throughout this campaign and honestly seen very little for it. So I do feel for them somewhat. And Russia. Russia has been bleeding a lot as well. And what have they done? They've lost. They even went bankrupt throughout this campaign. All part of their plan, I'm sure. I'm also being asked if the Mamluks are building the Suez Canal. It would seem not. They would need the money and they would need a touch more administrative technology, 3 more in it. But I'd be pretty impressed if they did. It would be nice to see all the canals in this campaign. Well, it would be all 2 of them since I can't find the Panama. I could ask the Animaniacs, but even they probably couldn't find it here on this map. Now we have Raptorn, and again, sorry if I'm butchering your names in the chat, butchering is what I do, asking if Finland is getting new provinces from what they've seen in the dev diaries. Well, a keen eye might notice that these chunky provinces have been prettified a little bit. You should run along to the EU4 subforum on the Paradox Plaza. Check out the official dev diaries there if you want to see what is the latest in development for Europa Universalis, and indeed all of our games. We make an effort to put out dev diaries weekly for our projects, so you can read up all you want to know and all there is to read about Stellaris, Hearts of Iron, and all the rest. Now the Mamluks showing off their wealth and their size by having an impressive standing army does mean that if you were the type with a particularly good navy, you could always launch an attack from the south, catch them unawares. They would have a long way to go to come and get you, and it's quite funny because they have fortified against their gold mines here. So they don't want their little income pocket here to be taken down. Ivory itself is like white gold, but gold is golden gold, and it's really worth the money. Mamluks also holding out for military tech 26. Military tech 26. Yikes. Tough one out the mouth and tough one out of technology. If you have 26, you have an incredible advantage. Couldn't help but notice that Italy do not have it. I doubt many would, to be honest. In fact, we have some lovely ledgers for that. Yes, lovely ledgers. Helps if I pick the right one, though. Looking at it, nobody quite at it just yet, but at least the Mamluks are ready for it should they need it. I'm not kidding though, military tech 26 is huge. That +1 land morale is pretty good base, but it will also be affected by other modifiers you have. So for Italy, they'd get their military drill, advisor, power projection, army, tradition, defender of the faith, prestige, and saints accept prayers to add on to it. Now I'm getting the impression that Italy feels a little threatened here. Their individual stacks are also quite small. I'm sure they want to spread out the attrition, but it can make them easy pickings for anybody that wants to come in and destroy them. I gotta hand it to Forza there. He's located one of my favorite random New World provinces. Anyone want to know what inspired this this little creek? It's a lot of fun to find out there in the random New World. I would implore you to have a look. Ottomans, France, and Italy equals frittotally. Thank you, expert PL. But yes, there is the power block, or the power blocks here, and I wonder when it's going to come to blows. Don't forget Bohemia there. They have chosen their side. No doubt they could have been persuaded over to the British side. Oh my, even the Mamluks. In fact, Britain have allied with just about everyone they can against this central power block. That's 9 against 4. Seems that everybody wants a piece. The danger of having your friends like this is that everybody on the outer rims will have a bone to pick with at least one of them. Mughals will want to put the Ottomans to shame for the attack that they gave them. I think the Mughals were the aggressors, but let's not get caught up in minor factual details. The Mamluks, of course, have their victory cards to grab. Spain and Portugal will not forget the bleeding that went on over in France early game, and Britain, well, they have to strike hard to secure top 3. Denmark's still having some cores, including the incredibly wealthy Hamburg, as it is now, controlled by Burgundy, and even Berlin. On the 14th of November in this year, though, Denmark are going to lose all of their cores. The letter Z must know this and is probably urging for war before that happens, since war will reset that as long as Burgundy gets involved. But we shall see. This seems to be quite the coalition against the Central Powers. Hungary remaining somewhat neutral in all of this. They'll probably want to rip Italy to shreds and grab that land back, especially from the Ottomans as well. But wow. If war does break out, we'll be able to get exact numbers on who has the most troops, who's bringing the most cannons to the party. World War Wednesday? You mean World War Tuesday? Well, it is indeed a world war. I think the only major person not stepping in all of this is Ming. So the world is fairly doused in gasoline. Will it all take off, though? Man, I could cut the tension with a knife here. I want it to happen so badly. And I was promised that somebody has to go here. So I don't know what promises Britain have made, but they've probably tried to secure what everybody wants out of this. Otherwise, not everybody would be allying them against these Central Powers. But even if they do win there, you got to remember, Italy themselves are a staggering 600% annexation cost. You couldn't take down more than 1/6 of them in such a war. Maybe a little more with imperialism, but even that's pushing it. So everyone is ready for war. Who's going to push the button? The British, the Burgundians, the French, even the Iberians have mobilized. Perhaps not Portugal. Well, he sent a token force. Although they formed Italy from Austria, they have not forgotten their roots. Very keen to protect their old Austrian land. Hungary seem to just have accepted their fate. They've left their land completely open, although they are mounting their forces along the border with Bohemia. Bohemia could well just decline this call to arms. Well, no, it's wartime already. Everybody is on the move. There we go. It is France and Great Britain. They are the respective war leaders. If we look at it from France's point of view, What do we have? 500,000 grunts for the front lines. Looking at it, we've got about 1,000,000 in total, if we look at it from the British perspective, and why wouldn't we? Ooh, almost double that. So we're trying to get the big picture here. We have the Iberians coming in through southern France, Burgundians and the British. Coming from the north, the Italians keen to boot people out of Bohemia, so they're focusing all their efforts here where the enemy is at their weakest. France always did invest in rather strong forts, so France are wise. They will try to pick off the smaller forces that try to come into them. Then again, the Burgundians have proven time and time again that their units are extremely strong. We can't forget that the Mamluks, they're played by Forza, and they are a very competent player. Competent doesn't even do them justice. Forza is a great player at Europa, knowing all the ins and outs. That said though, they are the ones shattered retreating away from Mr. Nibbles. Mr. Nibbles may be something of a rusty veteran, but he makes up with that with pure anger. He's got a lot to fight back for. Just how well will he do? Of course, we also have Johann over in the Mughals. And he's going to do to the Ottomans twice as bad as they ever did to him. The Ottomans had somewhat betrayed the Mughals, at least this is the story that we get from Johann. And he's keen to put them in their place for that. Very keen indeed. Looking at it, the French could quite easily repel the Spanish forces. But they don't know if that's all that they have, so they're probably quite hesitant to push, even though now is the time to push, since because of forts, the British and Burgundians would have a hard time backing them up. Of course, France has also invested in some extremely good fortresses, which take a long time and a lot of effort to siege down, especially if you don't have any generals on your side and only a paltry number of cannons. So here we go, the Italians showing that they indeed have the power, but like I said, the Bohemians are not to be underestimated. The Bohemians, yes, but I indeed mean the Burgundians. Italy showing that the Burgundian succession is when the Burgundians retreat away and are followed by the rest. That would have sounded really cool if it weren't for all these reinforcements coming in on the Burgundian side. We've slowed down to speed 2 for it's what we tend to do when battles get pretty heavy going like this, but there we go, victory for the Burgundian side. Wasn't a victory that came cheap though, not by a long shot. Seems to be a bit more success for the Central Powers up in Bohemia. They may be pushing in, but unless they cap a fort, it's all for naught. There is also the question of who has Tech 26. It's an interesting time to fight this war because he with Tech 26 is the one that shall be the victor. And that is currently only France. France should have a bit more confidence in their troops because of this. That extra point of morale is going to make a huge difference. So here we go, the Bohemians showing off what they have. They have somewhat decent morale, but it could be better. The Hungarians storming in. And it looks like they'll be storming right out unless a miracle is had. They're no doubt yelling at Russia to bring more troops. They fail to. The Russians are locked in on this, but because they were successful in battle, the Bohemians got a fair chunk of their morale back. And that's going to spell disastrous things for the Russians. They keep throwing more bodies into the meat grinder. A complete wipe for the Russians. So how about that untappable manpower there, Grugi? You might be sitting there pretty at 232, but you just have a stack that you need to bring back. It's not going to look very pretty for France unless they keep their forts uncapped, so they're going to have to make another launch on Bourgogne. Seems the Iberians have gone away. Heavens knows where to. Perhaps they just want some peace, or... It is curious what the Iberians want out of all this. They seem to join in with other people's whims, but do little for themselves. They never even gained much out of all of the previous wars that were going on, especially when they bled for the British. So the hesitation of the offensive coalition to push deeper in is allowing France and Italy the opportunity to consolidate their forces. They also know their own forts quite well, so it's going to be a little difficult for the offensive coalition to work their way around them. Burgundy is looking a little detached here and somewhat surrounded by incredibly powerful French troops at Tech 26. France should make the push. Italy have also joined them on Tech 26. That's a major development. You might only think it's 1 pip of morale, but that's a very large amount. So they're surrounding and scaring the Burgundians here. They should honestly make the move, since they want to move fast before the other nations get Tech 26. When it comes to the more eastern front, it's the other way around. The Ottomans are lagging behind on 25. The Mamluks, who had been sitting on that mill power, and perhaps you were screaming at them yourself to tech up, they waited for the right opportunity. If we were to look at it diplomatically, here it goes. The world is aflame. Even over in the colonies now, I'm sure they won't be caring much for it, but oh, then again, actually, only the loyal colonies are going to go out of their way to attack. So Spanish Apple Nose may as well not be there. That actually takes a chunk of troops off of one side. There we go, the Italians intercepting anybody that wants to come in and join the fun and liberating Bourgogne, which is a level 8 fort. They're going to hang out for a long time unless you bring a lot of cannons to the party, and by a lot I think I mean 25? And since they're unable to cap the forts will regain control of the surrounding area. So there's nothing to worry about those occupations. If we switch it around and get another perspective, don't want to be shouldering any accusations of being one-sided on this. We have the offensive coalition now led by, 114. Well, at least he has it where it counts. So if we look at it from the other way, we have, for example, the Burgundians getting destroyed by the now far superior Italian forces. That extra 1 point of morale is multiplied 1, 5, 20, 30, 40, 50. Yeah, it's a lot more morale. And your morale, maximum morale, depends, or rather decides the amount of morale damage you do. When we come in and look at Bohemia, their forts aren't quite up to scratch. They're still boasting that level 6 fort, which can and will be brought down, probably not upgraded due to lack of money. So if the Italians had been generous enough, they could have and should have subsidized Bohemia to build up forts along the border here. That means it's not going to be quite so hard for the Russians to pull through. So there we go. As long as the defenders, that is to say France and co, defend Paris, they're going to enjoy ticking war score on their favour. The battles are probably going to be evened out because the Ottomans are getting somewhat blitzed over here. That said, they still have quite a few forces here, but you simply cannot beat the Mughals, Bahmanes and Mamluks with what they have there. Italy is proclaiming, what is this peace deal? I'm not seeing anything come in for France, and if we check out Italy, oh, I simply cannot see it, but perhaps they can keep me clued in. And here we go. Still at Tech 26 to Spain's 25, and Portugal, well, it makes very little difference since they're not bringing many troops to this. The French are ejecting the Iberians. It is risky for the French to pursue in, but there are only low-level forts in Spain. If they wanted to eject the Iberians and free up this front once and for all, they could either threaten or just march right on Madrid. Madrid only boasting a level 4 fort on top of its capital fort. The French could bring it down without too much hassle. They're actually pushing into Burgundy now, another nation who did not invest well enough in forts. Still seeing some level 2 forts that will be brought down by impressive amounts of cannons and great leadership. Well, I say great leadership, there is not a single siege generally on Italy's side. Checking out France, there we go, that 3 siege from Vibienne will make a huge difference. If we also check out the British, since they are the leader on this side, the British still lagging behind in technology. 26, although far ahead in time, is going to make a huge difference in all of this. And that is the main reason that the Central Powers are able to push back as well as they can. Sorry, I needed just a couple seconds of silence for the inevitable destruction of the Italian fleet. You simply do not defeat 70 British heavies. It's not going to make the biggest outcome in the war ever, but it is still war score. And either side is going to need that. So here we go. Now the British and the Burgundians feel a little pushed back to the north. Denmark not really committing much to this. In fact, letter Z, what are you bringing to the party here? Because you seem to just be sitting back. They're probably still angry at Burgundy here, since now those cores are gone. If Denmark wanted to pick a side, perhaps they picked the wrong one. So as we can see, Bohemians backed by Italians ejecting the Russians, but here come the Mughals. The Mughals can offer a bit more resistance than the paltry Russians. We'll see to what degree that is. Then again, a 2.3 morale difference is that's going to help out the Mughals quite a lot. And since they managed to get such a small stack on their own, they're able to pelt them away with cannons. So although Italy won that, if we check out Italy, their manpower is going to be suffering for it. Check it out. Their total max manpower would be 238. Given the 30 deficit they have for troops that are currently deployed, they're looking at less than 100,000 manpower on that side. And checking out the numbers here, well, they're still looking at a little shy of 1 million there. When if we check out the British side, again, considerably more than that. But a lot of that is over in Spanish Apple Nose. So that's not all that important for our friends here. Ming are enjoying relative peace here. They're just taking out Burritia, which I don't remember them being there. And nobody ever will, because they're about to vanish. Didn't even still have the gold province there, although they've got that grey gold, the iron. So as I said, Burgundy never quite invested in the defence that they needed. Their forts were still rather out of date. Seems they kept investing in things like manufactories instead of fortifications. The things about manufactories is they're not going to defend your realm. Also seems to be a lack of coordination between our Burgundian and British player. They don't seem to know quite what to do. Even though the enemy is rather spread out, they're not coordinating an assault on it. And the Iberians, again, they are too scared to attack the incredibly powerful French. And looking at it from a technological point of view, they still have a ways to go before they can get their next tech. A year and a bit, but then that means that France and Italy and friends will have to make the most that they can within this year. The thing is, it's very difficult to separate piece these nations, since they know if they just hold out, the technology balance will be leveled out. And after all, it's not like the Ottomans are bringing much to the party here. Italy, France and Bohemia might have benefited from chopping off the Ottomans, just dropping them off as an ally, saying, you know what, Mamluks, Mughals, Russia, take what you want of them and stay away from us. That would be one approach that they could do. After all, the Ottomans at this point are being more of a liability for the Central Powers and a great feeding ground for the offensive powers. Mamluks, as we can see, coordinating their strikes on the areas that will get them their victory card. They probably want to make their move on the City of World's Desire, but the thing about the Mamluks players, they're also not greedy. They are very good at biding their time and knowing when to strike. There we go, another fort down. That's one of their better forts, a level 6 one in Luxembourg, destroyed. And the defensive powers push up further into Burgundy whilst they run away. Denmark finally bringing something slightly better than useless to the fight. They might end up managing to fight for longer than the Danes in World War II at this rate. Something of a stalemate on the line here, but the Russians and the Mughals have been able to push in a wee bit, and Block might just fall. Hungary are involved in all of this as well. It's easy to forget about them, but they are there. And again, fortifications looking really rather out of date. It would be very difficult to push into the likes of Italy here, though. We're looking at level 8 fort, 8 fort. You simply can't siege those down easily. And I also want to get a feel for the amount of mercenaries being used in all of this. See, the Iberians are not using any mercs, and that is likely why they're out of manpower. The French also struggling on the manpower front, but they are using mercenaries. They're even going over their limit for it. And if ever there was a time to take out the loans, enable the war taxes, and bring everything you can to the party, it would be now. The Italians pushing in, perhaps getting a little too cocky with the strength that they have, but they're using an interesting technique where they intercept reinforcement armies. That said, though, it's not going to be enough since their backbone is not strong enough. They should really be forced marching into this. Otherwise, the British and their numbers are going to really hurt them. So here we go. They managed to intercept units that were backing up, whilst they can slog out in the main battle. Excellent move by Italy. They're even winning in their side engagements there, taking out any flanks. And then it is still down to how they do in the main battle. But again, that enormous morale difference. 2 points of morale. The British will need something really good to help out here, and because they were able to clear out the oncoming flanks, yep, the offensive coalition knows it and they are running away. Even the French, with their great elan, storming on in. When it comes down to generalship as well, we've got 444 to a 525. Although fire is somewhat more impressive at this point. We've got to hand it to the defensive leadership there. So another battle for their side. Mind you, this is an imperialist war, although the battles will decide when it comes to manpower and such. It is about capturing Paris. Imperialism war being one of the better CBs, but it's all for naught if you cannot capture the actual capital there. Being asked to show the military ledger, it's a shame to take a break from the actual warfare that's going on, but yes, if we check the total troops going on, Bahmanes and Mughals bringing in the most out into all of this. But Italy's still having plenty. The trouble is Italy, France, their manpower is drooping. The same cannot be said for Russia, actually, who is holding strong on the manpower front, almost as if they want to prove something after their previous boasts. So they're about to make it through block. And things could get a little ugly. A lull in the action. Has something gone up? Are there peace deals being made? Are people frantically running around to secure an end to this war? Although the Central Powers have managed to resurge pretty greatly out of this, in the end, in a war of attrition, the Central Powers are going to lose. It's simple mathematics of being, I believe it's 4 nations versus 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Bahman is getting involved. Even though it's far away from them, they know if they can cripple the Central Powers, it could bring them into #1 spot. So, although there's not really any territory that they can really conceivably take for themselves, they have an interest in bringing down the top players. I'm communicating with a host at the moment. Seems that Karsten, the Mamluk player, who is actually joining us from Canada, is having internet issues there. I'm just checking to see what is going on. It would be a shame to have this great big party and no longer have the Mamluks investing in it. Any rules who can pause the game and when? You'll pause when you need to, but generally we like to play at speed 3, speed 2 for the larger wars. It's not like we have a treaty on the wall, thou shalt not ever press pause. Okay, no, looks like we continue on. I guess an executive ruling was made on that, but due to internet issues, it seems the Mamluks have abandoned this party. They're now in AI hands. I'm sure the AI is competent enough to do their part in all this, but it does mean a level of coordination has been lost, if there can be such thing as coordinating with a player in Canada. Okay, that it is official, so we are rehosting for Karsten, the player of the Mamluks, to join back in. So with that being the case, I will depart for just a minute and we'll be back when we're all up and ready to go again.